The elevator panel lit up with a button marked B at 2:06 a.m., and then security footage showed me stepping into it. I was watching the live feed from the front desk of Mercer Financial Tower when it happened, halfway through a 12-hour overnight shift, and absolutely certain of one thing. Our building had no basement. 23 floors above ground, 2 parking levels. That was it. No sublevel, no B button. The stainless steel panel in elevator 3 had always gone from P2 to 23, but on the monitor, a small circular button beneath P2 glowed amber. B. The camera angle inside the cab showed me standing there in uniform, head tilted down, one hand pressed to it. The doors closed. The floor indicator dropped below P2. Then the feed cut to static. I looked up at the real elevator bank 20 feet from the desk. Elevator 3 sat idle on floor 14. Doors closed. No movement. My radio chirped. Unit 4, confirm basement escort. It was dispatch. Except dispatch for our building wasn't a person. Overnight calls routed through automated text prompts from the management server. We didn't have live operators after midnight. I picked up slowly. Who is this? You're already late. The line went dead. I replayed the elevator footage 3 times. Same result. Same exact version of me entering the cab at 2:06. Same amber B button. Same descent into a floor that shouldn't exist. I checked the timestamp on my monitor. 2:08. 2 minutes after whatever I'd supposedly done. My first thought was someone had spoofed archived footage as a prank, but nobody else was in the building. The cleaning crew left at midnight. Office staff cleared out by 8. Mercer Financial leased most of the tower, and their cybersecurity team was paranoid enough that every camera fed through a closed local system with no outside access. I was alone. Then elevator 3 chimed. The real one this time. The floor indicator above the doors displayed B. The doors slid open. Empty cab, bright fluorescent light. And there it was, an actual B button beneath P2, glowing softly like it had always belonged there. My stomach tightened. I stepped closer. The polished metal reflected my face back at me, pale and stretched by the curve of the doors. Then the reflection smiled. I didn't. I backed away fast enough to stumble over my chair. When I looked again, my reflection matched me perfectly, wide-eyed and frozen. The radio crackled. He's waiting. Same voice. Mine. Calm, familiar. I should have called the police, or at least building management. Instead, I did what every night guard eventually does when something impossible happens. I tried to prove it wasn't real. I approached the cab again and checked the panel directly. The B button was solid, cool to the touch, built into the metal exactly like the others. No seams, no sign it had been added. I pressed it. The doors shut instantly. The descent was smooth at first. P2 passed. Then the display changed to symbols I didn't recognize. Thin, vertical lines, shifting slowly like digital characters trying to settle into numbers. The cab kept dropping. My ears popped once, twice. Then pressure built so sharply I had to swallow hard to keep from yelping. By the time it stopped, my watch showed 2:11. 3 minutes had passed. It felt like 20 seconds. The doors opened onto a hallway that looked older than the rest of the tower by decades. Concrete walls painted institutional green. Exposed pipes overhead. dim yellow lights buzzing behind wire cages. It smelled like wet dust and old electrical fires. There was no signage, no room numbers, just a straight corridor stretching farther than the dimensions of the building should have allowed. The elevator behind me remained open. The display above it no longer showed B. It read 4. My radio clicked. Proceed to records. I nearly dropped it. Who are you? You asked for more hours. That hit harder than it should have. 2 weeks earlier, I'd complained to my supervisor about getting my shifts cut. I hadn't told anyone else. I moved down the corridor because standing still felt worse. Every 20 feet, there was a steel door with a narrow, reinforced window. Most rooms were dark, empty from what I could tell. The third door on the left was lit. Inside sat the front desk from the lobby upstairs. Exact same cheap laminate counter, same monitor wall, same half-broken swivel chair. And sitting in it was me. He wore my uniform, except the shoulder patch had an older Mercer logo discontinued years before I was hired. He was watching camera feeds of the current lobby upstairs, watching me. He looked exhausted. Dark circles, gray at the temples, maybe 15 years older than me. Without looking away from the monitors, he said, "Close the elevator before he sees you." I turned. The elevator doors were beginning to slide shut on their own. Through the narrowing gap, I saw someone standing inside. Me again. But wrong somehow. Skin too pale, smile too wide. The older version of me lunged across the room and hit a red switch on the wall. Metal shutters slammed down over the elevator entrance just as the doors fully opened. Something struck the other side hard enough to dent the steel inward. Then again, then scratching. Slow, deliberate scratching. What is that? The older me finally looked at me. His expression was the kind you reserve for bad news someone can't avoid hearing. That's what comes down if you miss your shift. My shift? He gestured to the monitors. Every screen showed a different version of the lobby upstairs. Different dates, different furniture arrangements, different guards at the desk. All of them me. Younger, older, some with beards, some clean-shaven, some bruised, one with half his face bandaged. Every single one staring at his own impossible elevator. Mercer built over something, he said. Every few years it needs another watcher, someone already tied to the building. He pointed to one monitor. A grainy black and white feed dated 1987 showed a night guard at the same desk. My face. Different haircut. Same scar on my chin. The first one was our grandfather. I laughed reflexively. It came out thin and sharp. That's not possible. Neither is this floor. The scratching at the shutter stopped. Silence pressed so heavily I could hear water dripping somewhere far down the corridor. Then a voice came through every monitor speaker at once. My voice, cheerful this time. "Shift coverage available?" The older me went pale. He found another route. Alarms exploded down the hallway. Red strobes pulsed overhead. Every steel door lining the corridor unlocked simultaneously with a thunderous series of clanks. Their windows filled with movement. Faces pressing close to the glass. All mine. Some looked terrified, some blank, some grinning. Hands began pounding from inside. "Run," the older me said. He shoved a brass key into my palm. "End of hall. Records vault. Lock it behind you." "What about you?" He looked toward the shuttered elevator and gave a tired smile. "I already stayed too long." He hit another switch. The shutters lifted halfway. White hands immediately forced through the gap, clawing wider.
Versions of me piled against the opening, mouths stretched unnaturally wide, all speaking in perfect unison. "Shift change!" I ran. The corridor erupted behind me with screams, impacts, metal tearing loose. I sprinted past doors bursting open, glimpsing copies of myself stumbling into the hall, some confused, some weeping, some charging after me. At the far end stood a massive vault door. I jammed the brass key into the lock and threw myself inside.
The door sealed just as bodies slammed into it from outside. The vault was enormous. Rows of filing cabinets stretching into darkness, every drawer labeled with dates. I opened the nearest one. Personnel files, all under my name. Hundreds of them. Hiring records spanning back to 1961. Different birth dates, different addresses, same face in every attached ID photo. A monitor mounted on the far wall flickered on. Live feed from the lobby upstairs. Empty desk. Elevator 3 open. Waiting. Then my radio crackled one final time. This time it was my supervisor, sounding completely normal. "Hey, just checking in. New hires downstairs early for training. Mind bringing him to the desk?" The monitor zoomed automatically toward the revolving front doors. A kid, maybe 19, stepped inside wearing a fresh security uniform. He looked nervous, adjusting his badge as he approached the desk. The camera sharpened just enough for me to read the name. Same last name as mine. My younger brother. Then Elevator 3 chimed in the empty lobby, and the B button lit up. The vault intercom clicked on, and the older version of my voice whispered from somewhere inside the filing rows behind me. "Now you understand why none of us ever quit." The radio on my desk crackled with my own voice, asking dispatch to send help from a tower I was already sitting in. Night shift at Black Pine Lookout was usually dead after midnight. Just me, watching for lightning strikes and illegal campfires across 300 square miles of national forest in northern Montana. Summer had come early that year, hot enough that even at elevation the pines gave off that dry resin smell like sun-baked sap, and every ranger station in the district was running skeleton crews because half the seasonal hires hadn't shown up yet. At 1:17 a.m., dispatch answered the transmission they thought I'd sent and asked what kind of assistance I needed. I stared at the radio in my hand because I hadn't touched the call button. Then my voice came through again, clearer this time, breathing hard. "He's on the stairs." Every hair on my arms lifted. Dispatch called my name 3 times before I managed to answer. I told them I was fine, that I hadn't transmitted anything. But even as I said it, the speaker hissed and played back the sound of footsteps climbing metal steps. Slow. Measured. Exactly the sound the tower stairs made when someone was coming up from the ground. I killed the cabin lights and looked out through the glass. The tower sat 80 feet above the ridgeline. There was enough moonlight to see the staircase wrapping down through the darkness. No one was on it. Dispatch asked if this was some kind of equipment malfunction. Then my voice came through a 3rd time. "Don't let him open the trap door." This time there was screaming behind it. Not mine. Someone else's. The line cut dead. Protocol said if comms glitched, log it and continue watch. I started writing the incident down when I noticed something already written in the logbook. Same date, same shift, same handwriting as mine. 1:21 a.m. Radio failure. Something on stairs. I froze with my pen halfway to the page. I hadn't written it. The ink looked fresh enough to smear. Under it was another line. If you hear yourself, do not look down. I dropped the pen. The trapdoor beneath my chair gave a single metallic thud, like someone testing it from below. Then another. Then 3 fast knocks. Dispatch was still asking questions through the radio, but quieter now, buried under static. I backed toward the windows. Another knock. Then my own voice drifted up through the hatch. Hey, it's me. It sounded strained, like I'd been running. Don't answer, dispatch. The trapdoor handle twitched. I shouted that whoever was down there needed to identify themselves. Then my voice again, calmer. You need to listen carefully.
In 4 minutes, the lights on the ridge are going to go out. When they do, he'll start climbing.
My station ran off a generator shed 50 yards downhill. If power cut, emergency backup would kick on automatically, unless something damaged the line. I moved to the west window facing the maintenance trail. That was when I saw the flashlight. A single beam bobbing through the trees below, moving uphill toward the tower. Relief hit me so hard my knees weakened. Probably another ranger responding to the weird transmission. I grabbed the binoculars. The man carrying the light was wearing district greens. My uniform. He stopped at the base of the tower and looked straight up at me. Even from 80 feet away, I recognized my own face. The radio exploded with static. Every light on the ridge went black. The cabin dropped into darkness so complete I could hear my pulse. Then, from directly beneath the trapdoor, something began climbing.
Fast! Metal stairs shrieked under heavy footsteps spiraling upward. Dispatch was shouting through the radio, asking why my biometric tracker had just flatlined. My tracker was clipped to my belt. I yanked it free. The tiny screen displayed no pulse detected. Then it changed to location, lower stairwell. The footsteps stopped just below the hatch. A hand slapped the underside hard enough to rattle the floor. The flashlight outside still pointed up through the darkness, illuminating my own face at ground level. He raised one finger to his lips. Then the trapdoor burst open. I stumbled back, expecting to see me. Instead, a ranger hauled himself into the cabin, bleeding from one temple, breathing in ragged gasps. He was wearing an older version of our district uniform, one they phased out years ago. His face was mine, maybe 10 years older. He slammed the hatch shut behind him and threw his weight on it. "Did you answer it?" he asked. Same voice, same scar over the eyebrow from when I was 14. My mouth worked, but no sound came out. The thing below hit the hatch hard enough to bow the metal. "Did you answer your own voice?" I shook my head. He exhaled sharply. "Good. That buys us longer." Another impact. Screws squealed in the hinges. He grabbed the logbook from the desk and flipped through pages I'd thought were blank. Every page was filled with entries in my handwriting, hundreds of them, each documenting slight variations of the same night. Some ended with frantic, half-finished sentences. Some were just repetitions of, "Don't open the hatch." One entry was circled over and over until the paper tore. "If it reaches the cabin, it learns your voice." He shoved the book at me. "You're reading this because I didn't get out in time." He explained it in fragments between impacts from below. 30 years earlier, another lookout had vanished from Black Pine. Officially, he fell. Unofficially, dispatch kept receiving his radio calls for weeks after. Every few summers, on the hottest night of the season, the tower repeated itself. Same shift, same ranger, same choices.
Most versions of me answered the voice on the radio. Some opened the hatch. Some ran downstairs. None of them made it off the ridge. "And you?" I asked. He gave a grim little smile. "I'm what happens when you survive till sunrise." The flashlight outside vanished. The thing below stopped pounding. Silence filled the cabin. Then my radio clicked. Dispatch, sounding normal now, asked me to confirm status. Older me lunged for it, too late. Instinct made me answer. "Black Pine here." The second the words left my mouth, his expression collapsed. The voice that came back wasn't dispatch. It was mine, bright and cheerful. "Copy that."
Beginning ascent. The staircase outside erupted with footsteps, dozens of them, circling upward from every level at once. Through the glass, I saw movement on every landing. Men in ranger uniforms, all my face. Some younger, some older, some bloodied, some smiling. They climbed in perfect silence, except for the synchronized clang of boots on metal. Older me shoved the emergency flare gun into my hands and kicked open the maintenance window. 80 feet down to the rocky slope. Jump now or stay here forever. The first fists hit the cabin door. I looked back once. He was bracing the hatch, knowing exactly what came next. I jumped. I hit branches, rock, then nothing. When I woke, it was dawn in the ranger station infirmary. They said a search crew found me unconscious halfway down the ridge. Broken wrist, concussion, severe dehydration. No sign of anyone else at the tower. No damage. No logbook. No flare gun.
They wrote it off as heat exhaustion and a fall. I almost believed them until yesterday, when payroll emailed asking why I'd failed to clock out after my overnight shift last week. I haven't worked Black Pine in 6 months. Attached was the digital timesheet. Clock in, 7 p.m. Clock out, still active. And under Employee ID, there was a live biometric feed showing my pulse steady at 72 beats per minute from the top of Black Pine Lookout, where dispatch says my radio has been transmitting every night at 1:17 a.m., asking them to send help because something is climbing the stairs. The cage doors slid open to level 8, and every man standing inside with me swore we'd never stopped moving. I worked nights at Copper Hollow Lithium Mine outside Ely, Nevada. 12-hour graveyard shifts running diagnostics on ventilation and seismic sensors 3,000 feet below the desert. Summer out there turns the whole basin into a furnace. Even after midnight, the air above ground feels baked solid, and by the time we dropped into the shaft each night, everyone was eager for the cooler air underground. There were only 5 active levels in the mine. Level 8 had been sealed since a collapse back in 1997 that killed 11 men and shut down the east galleries permanently. The control panel inside the cage didn't even have a button for it anymore. But at 2:43 a.m., while descending from level 4 to the maintenance station on 5, the elevator jolted once, slowed, and stopped. The digital display above the doors flickered through random symbols before settling on a clean red 8. Nobody spoke. Then the doors opened. The tunnel beyond was fully lit. That was the first impossible thing. Level 8 had no power. The second was the sound. Footsteps. Dozens of them, echoing through the main drift like a shift change was underway. Ramirez reached for the closed door switch. Nothing happened. We all just stood there, staring into the tunnel as a voice echoed from somewhere deeper inside. "You boys coming?" It was Foreman Keller. He'd died in the collapse 29 years ago. I knew because his black and white memorial photo still hung in the locker room upstairs. The voice came again, impatient now. "Clock's running!" One of the drill operators, Pete, stepped halfway out of the cage before I grabbed his harness. His face had gone pale under his dust mask. "That's Keller," he whispered. "My dad worked under him." The doors slammed shut on their own.
The elevator dropped so fast my stomach hit my throat. It didn't stop until level 5. When we stumbled out, every radio on our belts crackled simultaneously. Dispatch was shouting, asking why our cage had shown stationary at level 8 for 19 minutes. We'd been stopped maybe 30 seconds. Nobody answered. We all just looked at each other. Our supervisor told us to forget it and finish the shift. "Mines are full of electrical weirdness," he said. "Faulty sensors, interference." But when I reached the diagnostics office, my terminal was already logged in under my ID. A maintenance request was open. Level 8 vent pressure anomaly, requesting manual inspection. Submitted 2 hours earlier. By me. The timestamp was impossible. I'd still been driving to work. I checked access logs. My badge had scanned into the main shaft at 12:08 a.m., right when security cameras showed me entering through the surface gate. Then again at 12:11, then 12:14. Then every 3 minutes after that for nearly an hour, each scan registered from the sealed level 8 checkpoint. I stared at the screen until Ramirez came running into the office. He was holding his phone with a photo open. "This was in my locker." It showed our whole cage crew standing at level 8, covered in dust, all facing the camera. Every one of us looked exhausted. Some were bleeding. The timestamp was tomorrow's date. Scribbled across the bottom in black marker were 4 words. "Don't let Pete answer." We called surface control and demanded the cage be shut down until morning. They refused. Production delays cost too much. We were told to complete one final systems sweep on level 3 and clock out. Pete stayed quiet the whole ride down. Halfway there, his radio crackled. "Pete?" It was his father's voice. "Need your help on 8. Pete's dad had died in the collapse with Keller. Pete went for the emergency stop. Ramirez and I restrained him, but he fought like a man drowning. "He's alive down there! He's been alive this whole time!" We got him to level 3 and sedated him in the med bay. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. At 4:06 a.m., every light in the mine went out. Backup systems should have restored power in under 10 seconds. We spent nearly 2 minutes in total darkness. In a mine, darkness has weight. It presses against your eyes. You hear every breath, every scrape of boot on rock. Then we heard the elevator moving. None of us had called it. The cables screamed through the shaft, descending fast. Floor indicators outside the med bay lit up one by one. Then 6, then 7, then 8. There was a long pause. Then it started coming up, slowly, deliberately. The lights returned just as the cage reached our level. Its doors opened. Empty, except for Pete's hard hat sitting in the center of the floor. He was still strapped unconscious to the cot behind us. Written inside the helmet, in fresh grease pencil, was a single message. Wrong one. Pete woke, screaming.
Not from panic, from pain. Blood soaked through his coveralls at the chest. We cut them open and found 11 fresh handprints bruised into his skin, each perfectly black, as if coal dust had been pressed into him from the inside. Then the radios all activated at once. 11 voices. Men calling out over static, reciting shift numbers. Clock-in confirmations. Last names matching every casualty from the 1997 collapse. The final voice was mine. Calm, clear. Diagnostic complete, sending replacement crew up. The elevator doors began closing. Ramirez wedged his boot in, but something on the other side pulled harder. The steel bent inward around his leg. He screamed as bones snapped. We dragged him free just before the doors sealed. The cage shot upward toward surface. We thought whatever was happening had left. Then every terminal on level 3 powered on simultaneously. Security feeds filled the screens. Surface cameras showed the mine entrance under the moonlight. The cage had reached the top. The doors opened. Men walked out. 5 of them. Our exact crew. Same uniforms, same faces. They moved across the lot in perfect sync and entered the admin building. 30 seconds later, surface control stopped responding. Emergency lines went dead. Then my terminal printed a new maintenance order. Level 3 occupied. Descend to level 8 for reassignment. Footsteps echoed from the access tunnel behind us. We turned and saw them approaching through the fluorescent haze. Ourselves, dust-covered, smiling. Pete started sobbing. My double raised a hand and tapped his radio.
You already know the rule. Only one crew clocks out.
We barricaded ourselves in the medbay until sunrise. When rescue teams finally came down, they found only me. No Ramirez, no Pete, no barricade. Just me sitting alone beside an unplugged terminal. Corporate shut Copper Hollow for structural review 2 weeks later. Officially, there was never any incident. They said fatigue caused a psychological episode. Maybe I'd believe that if payroll hadn't mailed me my final check yesterday. It included overtime for 6 extra shifts worked after the mine closed. At the bottom was a note from HR. Outstanding performance on level 8. Permanent reassignment approved. And this morning, my security badge activated itself on my kitchen counter at exactly 2:43 a.m., followed by a text from the mine's automated system telling me I was late for descent. Fade to silence.